Hi, I'm Marcus Boyce and welcome to another episode of Lord Splodge Shorts. In this episode we're going to take a look at installing ESXi on VMware Workstation. ESXi is a industry standard hypervisor that lets you run multiple virtual machines on one physical server. It's also bare metal, which means it doesn't need an operating system like Windows 7. And best of all, it's free. One of the good things is you can actually run ESXi in the VMware Workstation. To do this, you'll need a compatible 64-bit CPU and preferably a 64-bit operating system, as you'll need more than 4 GB of RAM. You'll need to enable virtualization on your chip in your BIOS. And once you've done all that, you can install ESXi. So we'll show you how that's done now. Right, before we can install ESXi on VMware Workstation, we'll need a copy of the ISO or disk image file from VMware's website. To do that, I'll launch the web browser. The address is on the screen where you need to go to. You'll need an account, so you'll need to register with VMware. This is free. Also, if you're searching for ESXi, you'll find out that it's actually now called VMware Vsphere Hypervisor 4.1, just in case there's any confusion. So there it is. Right, to get it, you click the download button. And this is where you'll register or use your existing username and password if you have one. Now, I've already downloaded it, so it's in my downloads folder. As you can see, it's named VMware Installer 4.1. Right, let's launch VMware Workstation. So here we've got VMware Workstation, and we'll need to create a new virtual machine. You can do that from the handy shortcut here. Right, we're going to go for custom, because we're going to want to make some changes to the hardware. The compatibility, leave it at the highest compatibility there. Sorry, the highest version. So that's 6.5 to 7. Now what we want to do is the disk image that we got, we want to mount it as the install file. So to do that, we'll browse and we'll go into the folder where it was downloaded to. Select it and open it. I already detected it as ESXi, so we'll just name it. I'm going to give it a name of VMware Hypervisor. I'm going to choose where to store the virtual machine. Now I've created a folder for virtual machines, so we're just going to pop over to that, and there it is, and just add a folder name onto the end for ESXi. There we go. Right, number of processors. Now I've only got one processor in the computer, so I'll set that to 1, and it has 4 cores, so we'll set that. Okay, so we set the number of cores to 4, click next, and now we'll set the RAM. Now the minimum for ESXi is 2 GB of RAM. This is why I suggested you need a 64-bit operating system, because you'll need RAM for hosts. We've got 16 GB available. Next is networking. By default it suggests NAT, but we're going to need bridged because we want to give each ESXi adapter an IP address and each host inside that. If you wanted to keep it separate from the internet like a test network, you can use host only, This won't have any connection out to the wider world. You can also use NAT for normal machines, but not for ESXi, as it doesn't work. So we'll set it's bridged. Default here. We're going to create a new virtual disk because we don't have one already. Again, we're going to recommend the default. It's come up with a figure of 40 gig, which is probably about right, so we'll keep that. You can, if you want, allocate all that 40 gig space at once by ticking here, or you can let it grow as the volume gets bigger. Right, you have to name the disk file. We'll take the default as well. Now it stores it with the machine. We're not going to power it on because we're going to customize the hardware. In essence, what we're going to want to do is to add a network adapter or two, because a real life ESX host would have 4 or 8 or even more network adapters. Again, we're going to set these as bridged, so we'll set that and finish. We'll add a few more. You can also replicate the physical network connection state by ticking there. So if your computer's not got its cable in, the ESXi host will replicate that. Make sure they're connected at power on. We're just going to check these all now. Okay, let's power the machine up. Right, to power the machine up, just right click, power on. It's going to boot now. That's just giving me a warning about the microphone. I'll get rid of that. You need to click in the machine and then press enter to boot the ESX installer. You'll notice that you can't get your mouse out while it's in there. To release it, you press Ctrl Alt. To get back to the machine, you'll need to click in again. It's just going to load the necessary modules at the moment. It might take a minute or so. Right, enter to install. F11 to accept and continue. Choose the disk. We've only got one because it's the virtual disk we created earlier. F11 again to install. We'll come back after it's installed. There we go. We just need to do a reboot now, so we'll press enter to reboot. Now there's a couple of things we need to do once it's rebooted, and the first one of those is set a password. So we're just waiting for it to finish booting. Here we go. Press F2 to customize the system, and it'll ask for your username and password. By default that's root and a blank password. And here we go. So we're going to want to configure a password. Now these are complex passwords, so if we type a short password here, it will give us a warning, password failed, and what it wants to be is long with a capital letter and numbers and or symbols in, so we'll fill one of those out now. You also want to give it an IP address, but we'll deal with that next time. One last thing to check is that we can browse to the address shown there, so we'll just make a note of that and pop our web browser up and type it in. Now you will get a security warning because the certificate's not valid. And there you go, ESX is installed and working. Come back soon for more on ESXi. Thanks for listening.